First things first, Alan, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you. So, where I want to start with is your debut album, because you're working on a debut album now. And I'm sure there's a lot you can't tell me yet, but what have you noticed about the songs and the tracks that you are making for this album?
The songs that I'm working on for this album is that I feel like they're really special, and they're very unique, and I would say they kind of like reflect back on the old music that I used to produce before, and also the newer version of, I would say, Alan Walker. So I kind of like give back to my old fans who was there in the beginning, and also something new, and yeah, the more like evolved Alan Walker, so I don't keep repeating everything that I do. And I would say the vocals and everything, like there's gonna both be male and female vocals on it, so it should be good. And I would say the songs are very melancholic as well.
Okay. A couple of things. First, what made you decide it was time for an album?
The thing is that we always had an idea of making an album, but I've always been a person that's only sticking to singles. Like I've always, since 2011, 2012, only released single by single. And I felt like now I've been doing singles for so long, and I release singles maybe once every 3 to 6 months. So in between that time, like you also make new songs. So it's kind of like you get like this big library of music that's good, but it's not good enough to be released singly. So I kind of like took some of those ideas and put it into the album, and also been working on some new pieces as well at the same time.
And musically then, are you a bit more free in terms of what you can do on an album than in singles or separate tracks?
Well, yeah, I would say I'm more free. Like I'm free to make anything. I want to do orchestral stuff. I want to make one plain piano track, and I want to do anything to everything. Make, for example, more housey song, more harder song, more like parties themed songs, and I think it opens up like the, for example, burdens that I have when it comes to making music.
And for you, because you mentioned it's some of the old and going into the new, is it difficult for you to keep reinventing yourself with kind of the industry, the EDM industry being as it is, so many musicians nowadays?
Well, like for me, like myself, I feel like I've been able to establish a sound that people identify as Alan Walker. And I think it's kind of like important to maintain that sound, but you can't always make sure that it sounds the same, because then people really like, oh, you're just making the same song over and over again. But instead, like just evolve that sound into something new. So the 2014 Alan doesn't sound like the 2018 Alan.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned also the word melancholic. Is there a certain reason for that?
Melancholic means that like it's either happy or sad, and it's very dependent on your own mood. And that's the songs, like the way I always put together my songs. Like Faded was really, really melancholic, and also the one before, like which was called Fade. And then all of them are really, really dependent on your mood. So if you're sad, like the song is sad. If you're happy, then the song is happy.
Mm-hmm. And for you, for your own opinion, Ignite then, what kind of mood was that for you?
Ignite? I guess like it sounds very aggressive because the song is very energetic. And but like I feel like it's not really that kind of like emotional, but it could still be something. But I feel like that one is more like a happy, more like workout song. Get you in, yeah, into the movement.
And how important are those kinds of moods when you're making those songs?
I would say it's always like the most important thing is that you're happy with your own product you make. But if you feel like if you can put your emotion into melodies, that's even better, because that could also be something that other people could relate to. Because if you feel something from those melodies, and if you put out something that was possibly distress, emotional, or anger in the melody, like you can probably hear it in the melodies as well.
And now on Ignite, Seungri is one of the collaborators. What was it like working with him?
Really, really cool. Super talented guy, and it was very unique because he's from Korea, and I think that also it took away a lot of burdens for me and myself when it comes to making music, because we wanted, like me and Seungri, we were working with Liquid State, for example, and the whole concept is about removing that burden or border, like we want to cross those border and give music from Asia and Europe a possibility to spread like worldwide, and so we don't have those borders. And I think that's also really important, because that's a huge step for the music industry as well.
Where do you see Asia at the moment? Where is it now in terms of its development?
It's massive. It's really, really good, and it's only getting bigger and bigger. And being from being in Asia since 2016 or somewhere around that, and seeing the development of the music industry there, it's been really, really fascinating.
And at the moment, and then this is just the way I see it, but I might be wrong, but most DJs are still from Europe or from the US. And do you see a rise in DJs and musicians, artists themselves from Asia?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of them, and more coming. And I think the Liquid State is a perfect opportunity for up-and-coming DJs and producers.
And what do you see as the goal in terms of what Liquid State is doing? What do you when will it be a success, so to say?
I would say it kind of always has been a success, because it's a collaboration between Tencent and Sony Music, which is huge. And both of their main goals is to spread musically globally and cross those burdens, or the East meets the West. I think that was the infamous quote. And I think that's really, really fascinating, because it's kind of like a very, very big step for the music industry, and I feel like they've been able to make that happen, and I think people came aware of it when, for example, me and Seungri did that collaboration.
In terms of touring, over the years, touring in EDM has become quite difficult, I believe, or at least it seems to me, because the world is so big and you try to fly everywhere. How are you coping with kind of the workload?
The workload can sometimes be very distressing, and it could be sometimes a lot to take in on yourself. And I started touring when I was 18, which is fairly young. And the first year I did around 50 or 60 shows, and then the next year I did 170. Somewhere around 170 to 180, and that is a very, very big difference. And on that year, I noticed how everybody wants to be there. Like, so it's kind of like one day you're in Mexico, and then the next day you'll be going back to Europe again, and then maybe less than a week later again, you'll be either going back to America or South America, and then to Asia or something. So it could be a lot, like, because it requires a lot from you. But I don't think people always see that, from the background, like that there's someone that actually has to take the effort to travel so much, and they put so much time of their energy to actually get from A to B.
Does it affect your creativity at times?
It could, because sometimes like I don't feel like that I have the energy and extra effort to kind of like open up my computer and sit down and work. Instead, it's more like you have the energy to just go and sleep and wake up, eat, and then go do the show, and then you have to leave again to do the next show.
Mm-hmm. And in the past years, we've had a couple of DJs. One of the bigger ones, Hardwell, being the one said, "I'm taking some time off, at least for now." How do you feel about that, something like that happening to DJs because of the workload? That people just have to kind of say, "Well, I'm getting too exhausted."
Well, sometimes it's really good to take a couple of steps back and then improve and get back even better than before. And I'm really proud of Hardwell for doing what he did, because he couldn't have done anything better than that for himself as well. And like me as a DJ and a producer know so much workload we actually have. Like there's so many deadlines, projects, and everything that's going on at one time. And yeah.
Well, one last question then. What do you do to get away from it all? Do you have something you do to kind of get your mind in someplace else for a couple hours? Or?
Like, how do you mean?
Just to kind of get away from the pressure and the music, just kind of to recharge in a way.
Well, if I want to recharge in a way, then I basically I usually relax. Like I don't bother opening up the computer or whatever. And if I'm at home, for example, then I will do anything but work on music. I would probably go out hang with friends as much as possible and do something else and think about work or music.
Final question, and I have to try. Do you have an album release date?
Not for the time being.
Okay, fair. And album title?
Can't tell you that.
Fair enough, I have to try. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.